Welcome to Words from Your Mama. I'm your host, Simone. If you're a mom or maybe considering being a mom and you want some encouragement along the way, then this podcast is for you. On this podcast, I interview moms from every walk of life as they share their experiences. So thanks for listening.
I love being called mom. I love being able to care for my kids and it's not always rainbows and whatnot, but it is there's just something very rewarding about it and being able to serve.
On this episode, we are going to be talking with a very motivated mama who's breaking down all kinds of walls and tearing down generational curses. She's a humble, quiet powerhouse of a woman, and together her and her husband have a large, beautiful family. Etel Gutierrez is going to be sharing some of her experiences as a mama, and I look forward to hearing about it. What makes your house warm and inviting? Is it the candles? Is it your bubbly smiley face? Is it your brownies that I've heard about?
So they're actually called abuela cookies.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's this little recipe that I have. And they're pretty good if I do say so myself.
I've heard about them.
But I honestly don't know what's inviting about here. It's crazy because for some reason, we'll get a knock on the door and it's like somebody from the youth group,
Yeah.
like, "Hey, come on, can I come over?" Sure. And they're like at the front door. I don't know. I don't know what it is about here. I mean, it could be that I still have my Christmas tree up from last year. I refuse to put that thing away. I told Junior it's going to stay up for a whole year because we paid for it. So so I have it up still and I'm not taking it down for nothing.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, maybe it's the tree. I want to say it's the tree.
It's the tree, for sure. You can decorate it seasonally, throw some leaves on there, throw a turkey on there. It's fine.
Yes, I could do that, but I have not. So it's just up.
So I know you mentioned not really remembering too much about your childhood, but is there one thing that you miss about being a kid?
I, again, I do not, I only know bits and pieces. I only remember bits and pieces about my childhood. And, I want to say that, I want to say I'm glad that I'm not young. I'm glad that I'm older now. Yeah. So I don't know, I don't know if that's a good answer or not,
Yeah,
but
I mean, it answers the question.
okay. Yay.
Do you have any regrets in life?
One of my biggest regrets is going back to the world as many times as I did. I think that's one of my biggest regrets. And it's one of those answers that some people might listen to this and be like, "Oh my gosh, that's one of the that's the quote unquote right answer." But, in all honesty, I do regret just not making the right decisions all the time. I know we grow from those things, and I know God uses the broken, the messy, the people that are just um, people like you and I. He uses anybody, right? He's
Yeah.
going to use anyone that he wants to use. And so, um, but I do regret that because I feel like those things also, it was like a ripple effect. So it didn't just affect me, it
Yeah.
affected my family, my kids. And so then they saw things that, if I was lenient in things back
Mm-hmm.
then, and now I'm a little more firm, like, hey, we can't do those things anymore. Like, we can't miss a Sunday, we can't miss a Wednesday just because we're feeling lazy. Now it's like, oh, well, we used to back then, and so, and that's just an example, you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? But like, I wish that I would have just stuck with it, stood my ground when
Yeah.
it came to making the right decision.
Yeah. No, I feel that on so many levels, not even just spiritually, like working out. I cannot be as committed to working out as you or maintaining a healthy diet. Like, I cannot stick to clean eating because I love cheese pizza, you know. But yeah, that's a really good answer. What advice would you give your grandchildren or your great grandchildren?
My advice to them would be to let me know if my children are mean to them, because grandma will knock them out.
It's the
No,
best.
no, I mean, I would just, just like with my kids, before they would go to school, I'm like, have a good day, make the right choices. So it'd probably be the same with them, just not to lose faith, even when it gets really, really tough. And, people are going to let them down, but we always have God to fall back on
Yeah.
all the time.
Amen.
Amen.
So we'll go to a lighter one. This one's super simple. List 3 words that describe your personality.
What I think or what other people might think.
What you think?
Okay, so I would say that I am laid back. I would say that I am, I mean, I want to say I'm nice. I don't know. I'd say I'm pretty nice. I have man. Why is this so hard for
It's
me?
not that
Because
hard. I
I
thought
like,
that'd be easy.
I, well, because I always go fall back on like what people say about me. Because a lot of people say that I am closed off or that I'm very serious or and and all you know I do okay so and I do kind of agree with those things because I am closed off but not intentionally like I'm just to myself
Yeah.
and I'd like to keep my head down and mind my own business for the most part. But no, I mean my personality, I would say that I'm pretty fun. I love to goof off. I joke around half the time. My mom tells me that I joke around too much. I play way too much. So, and sometimes it can be a little, too much because I just don't know when to stop,
There's,
especially like in serious moments. It's like you say the wrong things at the wrong time.
yeah.
And yeah, that's me. Use the humor a lot.
Yes, you were hilarious. I thought for sure that was going to be the first thing you said. I'm funny. Like, no, you were hilarious. Hilarious. Your TikToks, when I
My
had
kids don't
TikTok, I
think
was like, oh my gosh, Etel's cracking me up.
I had to tone those down because I mean, my kids were like, Mom.
It was good. I enjoyed them. I laughed.
Thank you. Oh, so long as you liked them, that's all that matters.
I would agree with your 3 choices. I would add that you're humble. I would instead of like closed off, because you are like you you have a thriving business and you don't even ever talk about it. You're just like, yep, just over here thriving, just living my best life. And then
That's
you're also just really bubbly. Like you genuinely are. Like it's not anything superficial. It's not I have to work to get Edel bubbly. Like you just come in just super bubbly. It's great.
well, yay. That's it. That's a great. I think you're probably one of the first that's ever said that to me. I need to get this recording so that, I can tell people Simone said
You are.
I'm
You come up and you're just, hey girl, hi. You're not looking down. You're not like making eye contact. Like you're making eye contact. You're hugging. It's great. I love it.
oh, good, good.
Love
I'm
you,
glad.
Edel.
I love you more.
What do you wish you wasted less time on? Ooh.
What do I wish I wasted less time on?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I feel like you've kind of already tapped on this. Just kind of going back to the other question we just asked.
well, I think sometimes I waste too much time on worrying about what others think of me, other people's opinion.
Yeah.
Um, as much as I kind of, I make videos that are like even like on my stories on my social media. about not worrying about what other people think because they don't pay your bills.
Right.
But at the same time, there's a small portion of me that I'm like, okay, is someone going to get offended because I said this, or or if I speak about like my businesses and what I do, or even just the things that I post on social media that I consider funny, is someone else going to get offended? So just kind of like worrying. I feel like I worry too much about the wrong things. Um, yeah, I think I spend too much time on that. I've toned it down a lot with social media, kind of like just brought it back a few
Yeah.
because I was spending a lot of time on that, trying to make sure that I was posting and getting my content up. And I'm like, man, I'm too old to worry about all that mess. So now I'm just really focusing more, like I said, on just healing from within and working on my family, like my kids, my marriage, friendships that really matter.
Yeah.
That's what I need to focus more on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. It's so easy in our humanity to focus on what other people think because we're such visual based society anymore. Like it's always how you're perceived, how you look, what car you
Yeah.
drive, which brand shoe you're wearing. Like it's always about that.
Yeah. Yes.
So I get that. Um, what is something your mom always told you?
One of the things I remember when I was very young, and it didn't make sense to me until recently. Um, so my mom, one day we were talking and she told me, La belleza se desvanece. So in Spanish, it's La belleza se desvanece, but in English, it means beauty fades. And, she would always tell me that it's just so much more important to focus on what really matters, which is our spiritual walk and not worrying so much about how we look. Well, back then,
Yeah.
I'm like 15. I'm like, okay, mom. But and I was very insecure and self-conscious back then, because I was 15, maybe younger, 14. So I wasn't really worried too much about it until I got older, and I really started thinking about that. Like, man, that makes so much sense. We can get caught up in worrying about our beauty and just trying to fix everything on the outside appearance. We're and this is not knocking people that get things done or nothing like that, but we get so focused on those things and then at the end of the day, we still feel like so empty inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's, we're not and fixing what's inside, fixing our soul, and just kind of like bettering our relationship with God. So now everything that she's told me when I was younger, that quote is like, it just means, it's like it has a whole new meaning
Yeah.
now.
So, share how you and your significant other, aka Junior, decide on important principles to teach your family.
He and I go back and forth a lot, honestly, because sometimes we'll be on the same page and sometimes we won't. What I deem as something not that serious, he's like, it's a little bit more serious, aka what I said before, that I play too much. But but I think I do feel like now we've really just we kind of like have this brief discussion about something like, how do we feel it's important? How do we feel it's going to benefit? How do we feel it's going to affect our family or our kids or him and I? And then we kind of go from there. So, and usually like like I said, I'm pretty laid back. So usually what Junior says, I'm like, okay. I don't really argue it very
Yeah.
much. Just go with the flow.
It's cool
Yeah.
that y'all look big picture more than just how is this decision going to affect us today. Like you guys look at how it's going to affect you long term, which is crucial. That's something I, as a young adult, have not learned. I just make decisions because I have the
Mhm.
money or the time. So, what are your goals as parents?
My goal as parents and Junior's goal are, I if he was here, he would say his goal is to have all the kids out of the house. That would be his goal. But in all seriousness, I do feel our goal is that all of our kids um, invest time in God and that they don't lose sight of that, that they don't lose their faith. And so I think that's what every parent hopefully would want for their kids is to not go astray and which, we all learn from those types of trials and things. But I think that's our ultimate goal that our kids are all in church and loving Jesus. And yeah.
How would you guide people thinking about being parents or mothers who are mothers? How would you guide them in thinking through time management as far as sports, academics, and other activities?
So one of the things that because again, we really didn't focus too much on our walk
Mm-hmm.
up until recently. Back then it was easier because the kids were little. So we really didn't have them in too many activities because, for 8 years we were going to a church that, I mean, we were there Sundays pretty much every day. We were there, whether it was for choir practice or something. So it was a lot of time we invested, so we really didn't have time. And I think only one day was dedicated to sports.
Yeah.
But we always made sure that it worked around our church schedule. And it's the same with now, just making sure that you prioritize, making sure that, like with Alana, we'll say, because she's very involved in church. I mean, I'm sorry, in school and school activities. Um, we always ask her, okay, will this conflict with church services?
Yeah.
If it conflicts with church services, you need to let these people know that you will leave at X time because you have to be at church. So that's our rule.
Yeah.
If they work with it, then sorry, like it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, so just making sure that you know where your priorities are because it just takes a little bit here. Once you start like, oh, I can miss this
Mm-hmm.
day, and then before you know it, you're like, oh, wow, I haven't been to church in a month.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because we get so wrapped up in that. And, Junior and I, we are guilty of that. Like, because then, part of me is like, oh, I don't want my kids to miss out on those kind of things,
Yeah.
so I do feel bad sometimes, but just making sure that there's balance. I think so long as there's a good balance between the two, I think we're all good. Think both maybe.
So, speaking to balance, how do you prioritize your relationship with Junior and raising a family? I know the two are combined in a sense, but you still sometimes you can spend more time with your kids than you can your husband. He feels neglected, and then vice versa.
Um, well, I would say that he and we do make it a point to have like a date night. Um, Even if it's us just like eating popcorn and watching a movie, or going to Cold Stone because that's like one of my favorite places to get ice cream when I want to indulge. And so, and I guess it's a little harder, not harder, but I think since my kids are older,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as, I don't have to, I'm not tied down to staying home.
Yeah.
So like those with little ones, it's a little bit more challenging. So I know back then Junior was working like 7-12. So I rarely saw him. And when I did see him, we were always with the kids. But I'm telling you, like, I feel like life just happened so fast, um, that it wasn't until recently that Junior and I made it a point where we could at least spend a little bit of time together. Like last week we were out of town and we made it a point to spend some time together before it got crazy. He's always on travel, so I try to go with him to be able to spend some time with him. Um, so yeah, it's just again, it's just about he and I both prioritizing and making sure that we carve out some time for one another.
Yeah. That's super good. Were there any specific books or Bible verses that helped you grow and raise your family?
Okay. So one of the Bible verses that stuck with me for a very, very long time is Matthew 6:33, which is seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added. So the reason it's it's a Bible verse that's just been it plays over and over again in my head. Um, because back in the day, again, before we really got invested into church and being involved in church and really me having an actual relationship with God and Junior having an actual relationship with God, you know, Junior was working all the time and it was more of like we have this home because I make the money. We
Mm-hmm.
have this car because I bought the car. That was really the mentality that he had. And then once we got into church and we both kind of, that was in 2002, that we both gave our lives to God. Um, and we lost everything. Maybe a week after we gave our lives to God. Literally, we lost everything. We lost our home, we lost our vehicles, we lost everything. And we had to kind of start from scratch. And that was one of the Bible verses that was told to me. Um, and once he and I were just like, well, we just had to have a different mindset, right? I mean, we could have looked at it as something negative, but I feel as though that was something that had to happen so that we could appreciate it when we got a home, when we could appreciate when he got a new job, like we started really saying, okay, this isn't because of me, this is because of God. And so once we started really seeking God more, and God was just like blessing us constantly, it was just it's just a different form of gratitude.
Yeah.
I would say even to this day, like when we have the things that we have, the businesses that I have being so successful, I tell people hands down all the time, and on both ends of the spectrum, the businesses that I have, I always say, like, I would not be here if it wasn't for God. The people that are on my team, they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for God. Like, I hands down always give God all the glory because it was rough when
Yeah.
everything was taken away.
Yeah.
So
What an incredible session we just had with Etel Gutierrez as she shared some pretty vulnerable experiences she's had as a mama. I am so happy to have had this interview with her today, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to tune in next week for more from Words from Your Mama.